so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life? Well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take about a minute and a half to tell you about a few sponsors that not only help to make it possible to produce this show 5 days a week, but that I'm also genuinely passionate about promoting. The first longtime stellar supporter of the show that I want to mention is Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online with over 8,000 video titles. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. The second sponsor I'm sincerely passionate about promoting is Purium. It's no mystery that bringing your mind, body, and spirit into balance is necessary if a person truly intends to manifest the greatest and grandest version of themselves. So if you've been looking for a way to easily get organic superfoods into your system every day with a simple plan that can help you reestablish a healthier foundation and relationship with food, like I was doing before I found Purium, I highly recommend going to positivehead.com/transformation and checking out the videos and interviews there where I dive deeply into discussions explaining why I take these products every day. And should you ultimately end up on iShopPurium.com to purchase any of their 50 plus amazing superfood products, be sure to use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for a 25% discount. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. It is a magical Monday here in the studio as I record. Hope you are doing just fine wherever, whenever you are tuning into this particular broadcast. I'm doing great. Happy to be here as always. And today I want to talk a little bit about something I haven't talked about in a minute. We've talked about it at different times, of course. This idea of soulmates and twin flames and relationships. It's something that has come up a bit here. Actually, recently we had Chris Jackson on last week talking about an exciting new relationship in his life. And we had the week before that where I was talking about some things bubbling up with old relationship with myself and sort of old contracts and things like that. And I was having a conversation with my good friend Everett, and we got talking about this subject, and I felt like it's something that wants to come through today. Some realizations that have really sunk in with me personally in the last even few days. And so this is what wants to be talked about today. It must also want to be received by many of you out there who are either seeking a relationship, in a relationship, kind of wrapped up trying to understand this whole twin flame soulmate experience we hear so much about. There's so much buzz about, right? And so, I just want to share some the latest and greatest insights that I am realizing. And before I do that, I would like to, of course, jump over to iTunes and read a review. You guys know I love my iTunes reviews. Not only do they help us to reach new people, but certainly help to fuel my fire to continue this labor of love. And this one came in by Hadley's mom. And Hadley's mom said, love, love, love. A couple months ago, I was trying to find something to help with positivity in my life, and I'm forever grateful the universe aligned me with Positive Head. Brandon and pals have opened my eyes and mind to so many amazing ideas, thoughts, and beliefs. I love hearing everyone's different stories and journeys. I feel like I'm growing every single day. I love all the synchronicities I didn't notice before. I sure miss Dalian in the newer episodes, though. I've started calling my son Damien the alien now. I definitely crave this podcast when I'm not listening. I want to know everything. Brandon, much love to you. I love hearing your voice, and I thank you for your labor of love. XOXO Liberty. Oh, thank you, Liberty, for taking the liberty to write me a review and share. And yeah, it's definitely... it's funny that you mentioned, Dalian. People still bring him up a lot. And for those of you who don't know, he was co-hosted with me on the early episodes, maybe the first 100 or so. And he still is involved in getting this to your ears every day because he edits and releases the show each day. So he's very committed behind the scenes. And I miss him too. He's actually been talking about coming back, making a surprise little visit. So we've talked about this over the last little while, and we haven't done it. But maybe this is another prompt. Dalian, it's time for us to have the alien drop back by and say hello to all the people. Come down from your spaceship, Dalian. I love that there's a Damien the alien out there now. We were... Dalian and I were actually in a band many years ago. You guys have heard me talk about Kundalini, and we had our bass player's name was Damien. At one point, our bass player, who actually his brother is in the band, No Doubt, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So we had a Damien in our group, Damien and Dalian, right? So very, very, very cool. All right, so let's jump right in. Let's continue with this topic today. And a realization that's been coming up for me in recent years, as you've all heard me talk about, I have always been such like the eternal, poster adult for childhood, right? Always feeling like I don't feel a day different than I did when I was 20, other than more wise, and so one of the things, and having never been married and now in my 40s and sort of, continuing to live a lifestyle that is probably not like a lot of people maybe I went to high school with and stuff who have a much more traditional life. My life has been anything but that. I go to lots of events and festivals. And the great thing about those sort of, the transformational community, if you will, festival kind of culture and Burning Man kind of culture, it's age is sort of a non-issue. And I've loved that because that resonates with me. I feel like I said, I feel as young as I ever did. And it's just not something that quite makes sense to me. Like, oh, you get to a certain age and you either need to be married and settled down, or here's the rules of what it means to be, and in regards to aging. And so that's something that's actually come up for me. And even my ego in recent years, as I've gotten a little bit older, it's like, I hang out with people of all ages, from, my son's friends, my son is 20, to people much older than me. It's like sort of a non-issue. It's like, I don't even really think of it in that way, but a lot of our world does, right? And one of the things I've noticed as, sort of on and off single my whole life, never having been married or anything, is how it sort of became, I noticed my ego being somewhat, I don't know if threaten's the right word, but not enjoying the fact that, as you get older, through my 20s and 30s and whatnot, it's like sort of as a smart, intelligent, semi-attractive, I like to think, so my mom tells me anyway, guy and living my life, it's like relationships or everyone was sort of a potential, right? When you're earlier, when you're in 20s and 30s, especially 20s, especially, I guess you would say, it's like everyone is pretty much a potential to you, right? And women can really probably relate to this. Then you start getting a little older, and now all of a sudden you notice, okay, well, I'm not... there's an age gap in some cases. Not everyone is that way, but in certain cases, it's like, oh, this isn't a match because this person's way, they're 20 years younger, right? And of course, there's relationships with bigger gaps than that. I've had my last 2 relationships have been 17 years apart, but that doesn't work for everyone, right? There's certain people who just, are, and we've all known that. People are attracted to someone who's older than them, and sometimes people are attracted, generally to people that are younger than them, and everything in between. But I noticed as my own, as I've aged, my own ego being like, oh, how does everyone not want me anymore, or as much as they once did? It was like the world is your oyster when you're 20 in your 20s. It's like, oh, everyone's a potential almost. I mean, not everyone, but you know what I mean. And so it's something that I got thinking about that whole, and it's like, well, why do you need everyone to want you, right? It's like, is that what is that? That's your ego, right? And for women, this is probably even more drastic, especially a woman who's been really fixated on looks, and now all of a sudden you hit 30 years old, and it's like, oh, you're not the 24-year-old anymore, and we have a culture that's really like looks at that, sort of this pinnacle youth being so glamorized and sort of putting shelf lives on everyone, and once you reach beyond that prime age, whatever it is determined to be in our culture, it's like, oh, all of a sudden now you're like a second-rate product, if you will, right? And I just realized how many people are probably, I know me, as healthy as I am within my own self, and sort of having a lot of success in relationship, I guess you would say, or not having a lack of opportunity compared to some. It's like, if this is something that's bubbled up for me and checked my ego and like, oh, wow, how can everyone not want me? Like how many people, this is probably a really painful transition as, they move past the prime, quote unquote, according to this ridiculous, outdated notion of aging in culture, in our culture. So yeah, I just wanted to give you what my perspective has evolved to in regards to this topic. One thing that is really settled in with me lately, and I've now been single. If you go back to, once again, the earlier episodes, Dalian was there, and my partner Anna was there at the time, and probably, I don't know, at least half a dozen episodes or so. She came on and would kind of help steer the ship on some of the shows. And but since we split, I've dated, of course, here and there, but nothing serious, right? And then as each year goes by, it's like, oh, you're getting older. Oh, okay, I notice less people are maybe in the past as drawn to me as they once were in some regards. And what does that mean? And it's like, what it means is absolutely whatever I decide it means. And that's what I really want to share with everyone, is my perspective is this on this now. Once you understand energy and the idea that you don't need to sort of be checking in with your ego every time you're interacting socially, to be like, and even those of you who are in relationships, it's like, well, you still want like other people to act interested in you or drawn to you. What is that? I challenge each of you to ask, what is that? Why do you need everyone to want you in that way? Right? Why is that such a thing? What is it that you feel like you're not fully whole in yourself? Well, you are. You're a divine emanation of source who's actually really, really, really old. So let's get beyond all that, right? It's just a matter of when you incarnated in the third dimension. You're ancient. You're beyond. You're timeless. That's how old you are. That's how wrinkly you are in your soul. So get in tune with that. Right? Get in tune with really all you really care about. You don't need to sort of be checking everyone. If you're single, you don't need to be checking everyone. Oh, is this my potential partner? Is this my potential partner to feed your ego? Oh, do they want me? Even if I don't even want them as my potential partner, do they at least want me? Because I need everyone to want me. It's like, that's insanity. You don't need to be checking everyone out as a potential to feed your ego. What you really want is connection in a way that's meaningful. You really only need one connection, right? And you don't even need that, because outside of yourself, the one connection you really, really, really need is yourself, right? I saw a quote not too long ago, and it was basically, to paraphrase, it was like, if you want to find your soulmate, you must first fully embody your own soul, mate. And I love that. It's like, I mean, I just kind of like made my own version of that quote. I don't remember exactly how it went, but you get the idea. It's like finding your own soul. That is the partnership you're seeking. That is, and I come back to this again and again because it's so relevant to so many of you out there listening. So many people are suffering with this ego thing about who wants them and who doesn't, and am I worthy? And, really, all you really are seeking is to fall deeply, madly in love with self, and then trusting and laughing along the way until that reflection. You don't need 7 billion people to want you. You need you to want you, and then joyously from an lightened up state, from a state of levity and celebration of the beauty of your life. Love it when some reflection of you comes in that wants to mirror that back to you, if that is part of your path. And for many, it is. Once you get into, once you found your own soul and you fall madly in love with your own self, that is the ultimate love story. That's God's love story, right? We're fractals of the one source consciousness. What is the one source consciousness? It's one. Guess what that means? It's alone. Guess what love entails when there's only one and it's all love. It's a love story of falling in love with self. And when you can do that and you are sort of successfully mirroring what higher self has done, right? And you realize you're your own twin flame, your own soulmate, then you can stop this constantly checking and needing your ego to be fed by anyone outside of yourself. If you're a woman that's now past your 30s and you put so much emphasis on your looks, it's like everyone was coming at you, 10 years ago. And now it's like half the people, and maybe even less will be 5 years from now. It's like, this is an opportunity. This isn't something to get sad and depressed about. This is your opportunity to really move into something not so freaking superficial, right? Real love, the real thing that you actually deep down want. And what's beautiful about that, then the one that is a reflection of that will come in divine timing as a mirror, right? When I was talking to my friend Everett yesterday, He shared a great analogy he came up with. He's like, he was talking with another one of his friends about, finding the partner, surprise, surprise, finding the one, getting a relationship going with someone he was interested in. And he's like, look, whatever it came up with, which is a brilliant analogy, is like, especially when you're talking about women, a lot of women have these walls up because they've had so much energy coming at them in past experiences. It's sort of like, at one cycle of your life, let's say, just to use as an example, in those 20s or younger years, it's like an overwhelming amount of energy trying to come and get, trying to get connection with you. And so what do women do? They put up all these huge walls, this barrier, this castle. And a lot of times it's understandably so that they would do this, right? And so as men, it's like, instead of trying to bring your armies and break down that wall, what if instead on the other side of the wall, you start building a garden? And you start tending that garden, and you make this beautiful garden. You create this beautiful, safe, lovely space. Then she wants to come down out of the castle and beyond the wall and check out your garden. That's what you're doing here. That's what all of us need to start doing. That is the path. Like, start tending your own garden and not worrying what's on the other side of some imaginary wall. It's constantly checking everyone you bump up against is, oh, does this person want me? Are they a potential mate? Are they like, tend your garden and then let it come. That's the path. Not any energy of desperation or stories of I'm not good enough and I need this external validation in order to get that momentary high to feed this, feed the self, feed myself in a way that's not really sustainable. It's not really the real deal. The real deal is like, comes from much deeper within. And that's what all of your experiences are pointing you towards, leading you towards, is to find your own soul, mate. And find your own soul, mate. And I love hearing, my friends and those of you out there who are really getting a lot of these teachings, who are really, grounding in these perspectives and becoming leaders and teachers yourself, coming up with brilliant analogies like Everett's, I saw a quote, a good leader is one who can tell another how to reach his or her potential. A great leader is one who can help another discover this potential for him or herself. Bo Bennett said that. And that's what so many of you guys are doing now. And I'm like so proud to see these ripples of impact, right? As you are grounding in these deeper truths, as I ground them in further and then put them out there to you, and then you're embodying them, and then you're sharing this information. This information right here today, how many people need to fully understand this, and how much relief and joy. And it turns this journey of aging and not having that soulmate in their life, that partner in their life that they desire, into a fun adventure, not something of dread. And it's all dark from here. It only gets worse. I'm only going to get older. I'm only, I better reach out and take the first thing that comes along, because I've resigned to this idea that, my best days are behind me. Your best days aren't behind you. You're just getting better. I'm just getting warmed up. Tell that story. You're an eternal being that's always been and always will be. This isn't like a winding down that anyone listening to this broadcast, there is no winding down in your life. This is like everything that you do from this moment forward is going to carry forward even beyond your physical death, right? This is like you're on the front end of a journey that is so absolutely magnificent in scope, you can't even begin to fathom. It's like, I think back to reading from the Psychic Explorer, Message from the Earth and the Sun, and, Beyond the Beyond, and all those cool channelings that I read. And it was like, what can we say to you who are so early on your journey that you could even begin to have a glimpse of the magnificent that stretches before you in the evolution of your soul? And you're just it's like you're on the early rung of this grander narrative that is unfolding throughout your eternal journey. You've been through all the hardest stuff and the grit and grime and the dark ages probably in a lifetime. You've been through so much to get to this point. And now you're going to get depressed about, I haven't gotten my soulmate yet. I'm not good enough. I don't love myself. All of that. It's like, what? You have completely missed the mark. You are completely looking. It's like the meme I saw the other day. It's shows a train coming around a corner, and you have one guy facing the wall, or facing the internal of the train, which is facing just a big mountain. That's all he sees outside his window. And he's frowny face and depressed, and it's just nothing but wall in front of him. And then the guy on the other side of the train, sitting directly across from him, is looking out his window, and it's just this beautiful expanse before him of mountains and valleys, and and it's like, which one are you looking at, right? Check yourself. What are you looking at? Move across the aisle. You're just getting warmed up. I don't care if you haven't had good success in love and romance and relationship, and you're now, 58 years old and, too late. It's not too late for you. You're a baby just coming out of the womb. Your soul is just warming up. It's never too late. It's never too late. You have no time in front of you, infinite time ahead of you to call in all the things your soul wants to experience. But first, find your own soul, mate. Let's take a listen to Abraham here. Talks a little bit about this. This is a relatively short clip. And it's understanding everything about your soulmate. And I found it on the Pure Joy YouTube page. Pretty short. Let's take a listen.
I'm new to all this, so be easy on me. We haven't talked too much about soulmates or that kind of idea. I was wondering what you thought about that. Yeah, what is that?
Well, very often you'll meet someone and you'll feel an extra resonance with them. And we've noticed, and this surprises people when they hear it from us for the first time, that it is as likely for your soulmate to be someone who just gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling that you've come home, as it is for you to find the soulmate who just makes you feel livid and angry. Because sometimes your soulmate is already in that place of alignment and sometimes not. Or sometimes your soulmate is in alignment and you are not. So depending upon where you are along this emotional scale makes them feel the way they feel to you. And the reason we want you to hear that is that when you really, 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 really want something, when you're not a vibrational match to it, it feels worse. In other words, a car that's going 100 miles an hour and hits a tree is a bigger problem than a car that goes 5 miles an hour and hits a tree. So your soulmate could feel fabulously to you or awful to you, depending upon where either one of you are in relationship to who you really are. Does that make sense to you? Now, it's interesting that you're new, because we're not going to give you the answer that we might have given you if you were here last year or the year before or the year before. We're going to give you the answer that is appropriate given this leading edge discussion that we're having here in relationship to this stream. So you're really going to like this. So you come forth as source energy and you bang around in this body and you have experiences which cause you to put things in your vibrational escrow. So without even knowing it, when you're very, very young, even the first day of your experience, you begin having interpersonal relationships and throwing your preferences over there into vibrational escrow. So, for example, with Jerry and Esther, they came together late in their lives, so to speak. They've been together since 1976 is when they met, but both of them had lived a lot of life before that. And as they were living life apart from each other, each of them were having experiences with others and experiences with life that was causing them to identify who they really are. So a vibrational escrow for each of them was forming. And unbeknownst to either one of them, life was causing Esther to create a vibrational escrow that was the identical, or nearly so, vibration of the vibrational escrow that Jerry was in the process of creating. Now, what that means is both of them were source energy coming in and same vibration coming in. And as they each individually lived life and had exposure to experiences that took them away from who they really are, their desire to be who they really are kept getting thrown over there into their vibrational escrow. You getting a picture of this? So here they are, bipping along through life. You all are doing this individually, while who they really are, who they had each become, was over there being tended by source energy, calling them each to it. And as through different chains of events, each of them began to individually listen and follow their bliss, they ended up in the same place. And when they saw each other, they said, "Hello, do I know you? You feel very familiar. I never want to be away from you again." You see? So think about what a soulmate really is. It's you coming into alignment with that which you are calling soul. It's you coming into alignment with who you really are. And in the religious sense, it is certainly spiritual, soulmate. But in the secular sense, in terms of relationships, isn't it logical that the person, the lover that you are seeing as your soulmate is someone who must be vibrationally compatible with that which is the heart of you, with that which you have become? So we want you to understand the only thing that is necessary for any of you to find your soulmate is for you to first mate with your own soul. In other words, you've got to close that gap. And it's an interesting thing because it's a very frequent thing that someone will be banging around and they will go to Alcoholics Anonymous or something and they'll get turned around and they will come into vibrational alignment with who they are, and they will feel so much better as they come into alignment with who they are, and they temporarily don't really have access to their soulmate because their soulmate's still over there making amends to the people they have wronged. In other words, you can't come into vibrational alignment with someone who's on a different vibrational frequency. And that's why we say sometimes your soulmates feel like the best thing that's ever happened to you, and sometimes they feel like the worst thing that's ever happened to you, depending upon where either one of you are in relationship to who you really are. For a new person, you really ask a leading edge question.
Thank you.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Something more?
Well, I also work with children that have disabilities. They have autism, and my biggest question is, I'm trying to understand, you mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but who created the autism or the disease for a child that didn't have a choice?
Everyone has a choice, and there are a number of things that we want to give you about this. First and foremost, every one of you who makes the decision to come forth into these physical bodies has full view of the physical body you're coming into before you come. So no one gets trapped in a situation that is different from what they want. No exceptions to that. That's helpful to know. Really a downstream feeling thought, isn't it? Now, there are powerful teachers, especially now who are coming forth, who have been, from their non-physical vantage point, aware that there are so many humans who have forgotten about vibration and alignment, who are disregarding their own guidance system, who are trying to make their life work by trying to control conditions. And the teacher in you knows that anybody that's trying to make anything better by controlling conditions is going to experience a life of futility, because there will always be those conditions you can't control, because it's not your job or your right or your ability to control what's going on in everybody's experience around you. Their lives are their lives to create and control. So rather large numbers of energies are coming in deliberately wanting a physical condition that they can't be talked out of or demanded out of. In other words, they say, I'll go forth and I'll be different enough that you can't pound this square peg into a round hole. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to be able to control me. I'm going to be free, you see. So, as you interact with them, if you get the wonderful experience of interacting with them when they're not being challenged by a system that's trying to change them. In other words, imagine how frustrating that would be, to be fulfilling your intent from your source perspective and making it all the way into a physical body different enough that people can't control you, and then notice they're still trying to control you. That's the frustration and outrage that you see in them. They want to say to you, and if they were better with their words, they would say to you, wait a minute, I went to a lot of trouble to be different. You're supposed to leave me alone. And those that are in an environment where somebody's not now trying very hard to make them normal, you called it a disability, they would call it an advantage. In other words, from source perspective, it would go something like, I've decided that I'm going to take the powerful being that I am, and I'm going to go forth into a physical experience, and I'm going to be different enough that you can't control me, which means I'm going to be one of the few people on the planet that you'll ever meet that knows that I am free. Because I choose freedom over your approval of me. And then the society, who is embarrassed by them or worried about them, is forever trying to, we'll just find one more way that we can bring you to normalcy. And they've come forth to say, we didn't want to be like you, that's why we chose to be different. We've come to offer a message that there is balance and value in our differences. We've come to teach unconditional love. Most people talk about unconditional love, but they don't live it. Most people say, oh, you're so sweet, I love you under those conditions, and you are so strange. I cannot love you under those. So if you would just be more like that, it would be ever so kind to me, because I want to love you, and if you were more like that, I would be able to love you. So just try to change a little bit so that I can feel better. Where unconditional love says, I want so much to be connected to Source that I will see whatever I'm looking at through the eyes of Source, which means I do not need you to be different so that I can feel better. I have the ability to adjust my gaze to align myself with Source. Unconditional love says, I will find connection with Source, and then I will look. Conditional love says, I will ask you to be the way I need you to be so that when I look, I will feel better. Huge difference. Unconditional love is absolute freedom. Conditional love is absolute bondage. So these blessed beings have come forth as teachers of freedom. And interesting, the most interesting thing of all, they feel free even when you try to control them. is such an interesting thing. So the autistic child feels free and isn't worried about anything. Have you noticed?
Exactly.
And the people that are trying to get them to be different so that they can feel better are in absolute bondage.
Right.
And the child says, I don't know what your problem is. And the teacher or parent says, you're the problem. And the child says, you kind of need to get over that because I can't change. If you're going to interact with me, you've got to discover unconditional love. And when you do, you'll be free like me. And then maybe so many of us won't have to come forth autistically in order to teach this to you. They're having a very good time.
Yeah.
Watch them up close and feel the joy of their being. And tell them, you need not change a hair for me.
Bless you. That's right. Thank you.
I have been not really finding a passion for my, call it career path. So I've been trying a lot of things, but not really feeling the burning desire for any of them. And I'm trying to find the answer for that and just to kind of feel what's...
But you see, don't you just love it that in sort of moving around through things that aren't very satisfying, the desire for something more satisfying comes. In other words, think about this vibrational escrow that you are in the process of accomplishing. So when you are doing work that isn't very appealing, you want more appealing work. When you're doing work that isn't very satisfying, you want more satisfying work. When your work feels not uplifting enough, you want to be more of an uplifter. When your work doesn't pay enough, you want it to pay more. When the people that you are working with don't recognize your value, you want your value to be more noted. When you don't feel that your work is important enough to make a difference, you want your work to make a difference. So all of this time that you are spending as you're sort of sifting through is creating a vibrational escrow. And it's so interesting. Jerry and Esther were having this discussion as they were driving up yesterday. Once something manifests in your experience, it feels so easy to have accomplished it once it happens. Where before it happens, it doesn't feel so easy to you. But if you understood that it's over there in vibrational escrow and that it's on the brink of happening, then you would soften your resistance and things would come to you more readily. So when you say, I cannot find my career path, what you mean is I haven't gotten the vivid idea and I haven't taken the exact action steps in order to bring myself into view of what I really, really want to do. And we want to say that may be true, but something else even more wonderful is happening, because all that you are living is creating a powerful vibrational escrow. And here's the thing we want you to hear. This is the answer to your question. You find that path by feeling your way to it. In other words, first it might feel like revenge, then it might feel like anger, then it might feel like frustration, then it might feel like overwhelmment, but then it might feel like hope, and about the time it begins feeling like hope and belief, you'll begin to say, I think I'm getting a glimpse of my path.
I definitely relate to this. You know, soulmates can make you livid or warm or like home, depending on where you're both at in your journey. I did a show a long time ago about this topic of, you know, sometimes you bump up against people you have this incredible connection with in this lifetime, but you're not really a match in this lifetime, but you sense like the broader narrative of your soul's, you know, love story together. And it's just like, it's not quite in alignment, and that's okay. Right. I love how she talks about vibrational escrows, you know, and getting them. It's basically finding your own soul, doing your own inner work. And then, you know, like with Jerry and Esther, it's like, oh, we're almost identical to where we're at. And so when you come together, it's like this, you know, this recognition of self and the other. And so that's a question for any of you out there who aren't doing the work. And of course, most people listening to the show are, but, you know, really should inspire you to do that self-work and self-love, because would you want to attract if there's a lot of self-deprecation and lack of self-love at this point in your journey, would you want to attract that reflection at this time? Or would it be better to get into a state where you truly value yourself by understanding the true origins and nature of the situation in which you find yourself, right? It's so much goodness ahead of you. And then attracting someone from that space, right? So maybe you haven't attracted someone yet because you're really being, a lot of times when you don't get what you think you want, it's because you're being protected from it. You're not quite ready. Like maybe it wasn't good that you didn't get a reflection. It would only have created more dysfunction, right? 2 bad eggs make a pretty bad omelet, right? So, that's a perspective for a lot of you out there who haven't attracted. There's probably a reason for it. It's waiting for you to really, really be ready. She said something similar to the quote I was making earlier about finding your soulmate. She said, to find your soulmate first, you must mate with your own soul, right? Very similar, very true. I hope this resonates with each and every one of you. It certainly resonates with me. And I hope you all that have suffered with this can now just laugh at your suffering because it's no longer necessary. Celebrate you, celebrate your life, and watch everything start to shift around that. It's the reason the Buddha's laughing. It's like once you fully understand, it's hilarious, right? You'll laugh at your grief. Like I said on the quote the other day, you cross over and you laugh at what you thought was your grief. It's all an illusion. I have a song I played before. It's a song I really love, but it seems so appropriate for this particular conversation. So I'm going to break it out again. And it's probably been at least 6 months or longer since I played it. This is Kangi and Occult. And the song is called Same Kind. And till next time, hope you love yourself. You love your own soul, mate. Journey well. Also, before we cue up today's song, I wanted to let you all know that we have finally created the Game with the Universe on our website, where you can choose the first number that comes to your mind, and it'll pull up that episode number of the podcast. I've been saying this is a great way to co-create synchronicity and magic with your higher self for quite some time by doing this manually. But now, if you go to positivehead.com/YO Universe, there is a super fun and simple interface to play this game with your higher self. I firmly believe just by setting the intention to play in this way, it opens up the door for magic, and it's a synchronistic way to hone in on nuggets of wisdom out of the huge catalog of episodes that are specifically appropriate for you at this time in your journey to becoming the next greatest and grandest version of yourself. And it also makes for a super fun way to engage and invite friends, family, people on social media to check out the podcast as well. So be sure to check out positivehead.com/YOUNIVERSE, and be sure to tell all your friends so they can play a game with the universe, which also helps the show to reach new people, which I greatly appreciate. And as a quick reminder, be sure to also check out positivehead.com/transformation if you're curious to learn more about Purium superfoods and why I take them every day. On this journey of becoming the next greatest and grandest version of ourselves that we have all embarked upon, I can't stress the importance of managing your physical vibration enough. And quite honestly, Purium has put together the simplest plan I've found to do so, and I'm sincerely excited to share it with all of you. Lastly, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Could it be that the stars have aligned? It goes to show you never know how things are gonna go. You always wonder what is next to come. Well, I'm always